I'm installing a phone in this room, in this room, in this room, in this room. I'm installing a phone everywhere. Why? I'm going old school. Actually, it's to solve a problem because no one stinking answers their phone anymore. I call my wife, nothing. I call my kids, nothing. I gave them phones. I gave them Apple Watches. They either don't have them or they're always on silent. So I bought a bunch of phones. All kinds of phones. Too many phones. For some reason, I love phones and I'm gonna use them to install a phone system. Why a phone system? Well, it's fun. That's the main reason. Yeah, it's gonna solve my problem from earlier, but I'm a nerd. If you've never geeked out on a phone system, get your coffee ready. Oh, and I just realized I can do this. I can call and talk to my AI. I can talk to Terry on the phone, and he talks back.
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
And then it can control my home automation and all kinds of stuff. This is what I signed up for. This is why I do this. Oh, and also business stuff. Like I should probably have a phone number for my business, which we don't have. So we'll get one of those. I'll install a phone system for my business so we can actually function as a legit business. Now I'm doing all of this with the 3CX phone system. They are the sponsor of this video and I've used them before. They're an awesome phone system. And you can pretty much do anything. All the crazy ideas I have, they support this. And by the way, if you want to follow along, it's gonna be free. With their 3CX SMB plan, it's free forever for up to 10 users. And you don't need anything to do this. While you could have physical phones, you don't need it. No hardware, they're gonna host it for you in the cloud. We'll have this sucker set up in seconds. All you really need is some coffee, so get it ready. Let's go. The goal here is to get a phone system set up as fast as possible so my girls can talk to each other. And so they'll leave me alone about it.
This needs to be stylish. Please.
Now here we're doing the cloud install. Don't blink, it's gonna be fast. Okay, first check the link in the description. This will take you to 3cx.com to get signed up for a free phone system. Choose your method. I'll select Google. Get logged in, put in some info, and then right here we're gonna ask you about 3CX users. If you want the free version, select 1 to 10 users. Make sure you agree with the license and click on next. It'll tell you, hey, 3CX SMB free is a plan you'll want, which is kind of crazy. It's a full pro version of 3CX. Okay, we'll click on next. It's thinking, perfect time for a coffee break. And your phone system is done. Like they just built you one right now. They even gave you a number. Let's check it out. This URL is your phone system server and you'll log in with these credentials. We'll get logged in and we're in. Now here's the fun part. If you don't have physical phones, a soft phone is a very fun option. Go ahead and download the 3CX app. Once you have the app downloaded, you can use the scan QR code option to register your phone. Done, I've got a phone. Now real quick, for me, because I'm extra, I'm gonna do an on-prem install. Meaning I'm going to install a 3CX instance as the virtual machine on my 45 drives cluster, running Proxmox. It's got a bit more features for nerds like me, and it's great for businesses. I'll show you a bit of that later, but for now I'm gonna speed run installing this. Okay, so now let's add some user accounts for my daughters, and then give them phone numbers. Go to settings, users, add user, simple enough. And then I'll give them soft phones. A 3CX app they can install on their phone or their laptop, and they can call each other, but I'm not sure they like it.
So I just gave you your new phones. You like them?
No, they're supposed to be on the wall.
What? I call Addie.
I don't know her number.
It's a 5759. Do y'all like this?
No, I want a real phone on the wall. Like a red phone.
Is that what you want to?
Yeah.
They want something they can hold. Old school, retro, I get it. Let's do that right now. Now, one thing to note here, whatever version of 3CX you're using, you can absolutely use a physical phone. However, if you're using any kind of cloud instance, meaning 3CX is hosting your instance for you, you'll need some way for 3CX to connect to your phones inside your network and vice versa. For this, you have two options. You can either get a phone like this, which is a router phone, or you can use a Raspberry Pi, and you'll install a version of 3CX software called SBC, which stands for Session Border Controller. Now, what does all that mean? And why are we doing this? Well, whatever phone you add to your network, I'm assuming you'll add more than one, because what's the fun of having one phone? You gotta talk to each other, right? Any other phone on your network will connect to either the Raspberry Pi, if you choose that option, or the router phone as its connection to 3CX Cloud. Now I'm gonna demo the Raspberry Pi option. And for those of you wondering, yes, we used to be able to install the entire 3CX phone system on a Raspberry Pi. That is no longer supported, but you can still install their Session Border Controller software to connect your regular phones and use that as a bridge to the 3CX Cloud. Now this is actually pretty stinking easy. Officially supported is the Raspberry Pi 5, and I got the sucker running on a Raspberry Pi 4. And that's what I'm gonna show you right now. Keeping in mind, you only need to do this step if you wanna register physical phones. I'll put an article below on how to set this up. Here's the official documentation, but I'll walk you through it real quick. It's a typical Raspberry Pi setup. We'll grab our micro SD card, put it into a micro SD card reader, and plug it into our PC. New day, new shirt, new mug. Where were we? Oh yeah, putting the SD card inside our computer and launching the Raspberry Pi imager to write the Raspberry Pi OS to it, because we're prepping our Raspberry Pi. You know this, I'm just waking up today. We'll choose our device. This is a Raspberry Pi 4. We'll choose our OS. We're gonna go Raspberry Pi OS Other, and then go Raspberry Pi OS Lite 64-bit. And then our storage will be that little SD card I just added. Next, now here's the cool part, you can pre-configure the settings. Things like username, password, and Wi-Fi, making it so easy to connect back to our Pi when it's all said and done. Hey, Chuck from the future here. While you can technically use Wi-Fi, 3CX recommends not. Meaning, disable your Wi-Fi and use Ethernet only if you're gonna be using this for production. For playing around, probably okay. So I'll call mine V3CX SBC. Username and password are already set for me, and my Wi-Fi information's already there too. Make sure SSH is enabled, and save, and then, yes, let's use those settings. Perfect. And right, done. I'm gonna grab my SD card, pop that sucker back into my Raspberry Pi, and boot him up. Here you go, buddy. I felt like old-time Hawkeye when I said that.
Well, hello, buddy.
Now there are other ways to set up a Raspberry Pi, but that's a video for another time. Now as you're waiting for this to boot up, the best way to know it's ready is by watching your router and seeing if a new device receives an IP address and is on your network. I'm waiting on mine right now. Come on, buddy, you can do it. Oh, there's mine. I'll grab the IP address and launch my terminal. You'll do the same thing on Mac, Linux, Windows, doesn't matter. It's all the same now. We live in a wonderful world. Now I'll log into my Raspberry Pi with SSH. SSH, NetworkChuck, that was my username I set, and then the IP address I just grabbed. There it is. And we're in. Now the next step would be to set a static IP, and you can do it with these commands. I'm not gonna worry about it right now. Now for step 5, adding our SBC and 3CX. We're gonna get logged back into our portal. Now from here we'll go to admin, and then voice and chat, and then right here we'll click on add SBC. And I love that Raspberry Pi is one of the main options. Let's do that. Raspberry Pi, continue, and then here, all we have to do is grab this command, assuming we're already logged into our Raspberry Pi, which we are. So we'll copy it, get back to our terminal, and actually I'll do one more thing. I'll do a sudo apt update to update our repositories, and then we'll paste in this command. Ready, set, oh. Yes, this should be good. Hit OK or enter. Tab over to accept, and then right here we'll need to put in our provisioning URL for 3CX. For me, it's right here, whatever it is for you, input that. I'm gonna type it in. I could probably copy and paste it, but I don't feel like it right now. I feel like typing. Sometimes you just feel like typing. Okay, that should be it. And verify it. Yes, always double check. Okay, and then we'll put our authentication ID, which is right here for me. And I think actually we'll copy and paste this one. I'm done with typing. So I'll copy, paste that in my terminal. Yes, tab over to OK and OK. Now that actually is pretty much it. It'll do its thing. Perfect time for a coffee break. I'm rocking the Christmas mug, getting that Christmas spirit in November. It happens. And now it's up and running. We'll enter for OK. That's all we have to do there. If we get back to our 3CX console and we go back, there it is. There is our SBC. So now, with this Raspberry Pi just sitting inside of our network, our phones can use this device to register and talk to the 3CX cloud. It's just magic. I love it. So now what I'm gonna do real quick is walk through setting up this physical phone. Now this is a SNOM phone. Fun name. I'll have a list below of the phones I've tried, used, tested, and loved. For a full list of what 3CX supports, I'll have a link below. In fact, I'll have documentation for this entire thing. Now, one thing you gotta know about these phones, oftentimes, they will be PoE or power over Ethernet. So, this cable I have right here, actually is plugged into the wrong port. I'll be right back. So this phone right here is PoE enabled, meaning it can receive power from my switch. Now, not every switch can do that. And if you have your doubts, you can always buy a separate power supply for your phone. I'll also have a link below. I bought a few of them myself. So your phone will need two things: internet, which will be in the form of an Ethernet cable, and power, which can be in the form of an Ethernet cable running power or a separate power adapter. Now I'm gonna go ahead and plug mine in and see if it boots up. Let's see. There it goes, power over Ethernet. So powerful. Did I mention I love phones? I've always loved phones. I used to be a phone system engineer, actually. A Cisco phone system engineer. That explains some of the craziness. Wait, does this phone have a camera? I think it does. We'll get to play with that. Now, adding a supported phone is actually pretty stinking easy in 3CX. If I go back to my users, I want to add a phone for me, Ron Swanson. I'll click on me, Ron Swanson, and go to IP phone, right over here. And you get a sad message that no IP phone is configured for the user. Let's change that right now by clicking on configure a phone. Now with a supported phone, this is going to be crazy easy. First, you'll choose your phone model, which mine is the SNOM D735. Yes, SNOM D735. There it is. And then we'll put in the MAC address. And the MAC address is on the back of the phone. It'll be a 12-digit hexadecimal address. Now notice we do have the option to configure the phone myself, which also alludes to the fact that 3CX might take care of that for us. Let's have them do the heavy lifting while we sip some coffee. You might have to do the configure the phone myself if it's kind of an unsupported phone, or if you have a weird situation. We don't have a weird situation, so we'll click on next. And then it's like, hey, you gotta connect this phone via an SBC or a router phone. Look, we already have our SBC. It's a Raspberry Pi running right here. We're good to go. Click on add phone. Okay, so now we have a physical phone connecting to our Raspberry Pi SBC, which connects us to the 3CX cloud, our phone system instance in the cloud. Oh, it's dialing stuff. Now finally, I can give my daughters some physical phones. Let's see if they like them.
Here's your new phone.
No!
You, those ugly phones?
This is not the kind of... Daddy, no, I'm talking about the old phones that go on the wall right here. And you like pick it up and you dial the number. Like one of those old phones.
You know, I could talk to Dinkin Smith later.
The phones aren't even plugged in yet.
Can you shush? We're trying out on Nicole. Maybe you should step up to your grandparents and
Your family doesn't care, mine does. And so does his.
step up.
Me and no! Our families are going to be in France for Christmas this year. Maybe we could do it.
Do what?
Plan.
Plan?
What did you think I was going to say?
I don't know.
We should be able to pick our
This
own.
poor princess was like, oh man, I wish I could marry the guy I love.
Royals in our family.
Of course we are. We're British. Our great grandmother was Queen Elizabeth the first.
Now these modern looking phones, they're fun. They have a ton of features, but my daughters had their hearts set on phones like this. Old phones from the shows they watch, like the Brady Bunch. So the question is, can we connect these old dinosaur phones to our modern phone system? Yes, but we need some magic. And here's our problem. You see, these phones, these are analog phones. They communicate over copper wire with analog signals, and they connect to what's called the POTS, or the plain old telephone service. I love that they call it that. It's the plain old. In case you didn't already know it was old. And these phones won't use an RJ45 cable like we use for our computers and our modern phones. They'll use an RJ11 cable, which might fool you into thinking they're kind of like RJ45, but they're a bit smaller. And I did not wrap this cable properly. It's a mess. This is driving me crazy. So with your plain old telephone system, you would contact a phone provider. So AT&T. You can still do this. And similar to internet, you would connect your RJ11 cable to the phone jack on your wall, connect this back to your RJ11 port on your phone, and not only would it receive calls over analog signals, it would also receive power through that same cable. Just enough power to make the phone work, which is fine because this isn't doing a whole lot. It doesn't have like an LCD screen. Now our new phones, they don't use POTS. They're using what's called SIP, or the Session Initiation Protocol. This technology allows our modern phones to connect over Ethernet cables and use our networks with IP addresses to communicate. This is also referred to as VoIP, or voice over IP, because instead of doing voice over an analog signal, we're now doing voice over an IP network. So here's the situation right now. This phone, the way it connects to the 3CX phone system to make and receive calls is through the SIP protocol. But this old dinosaur grandpa phone doesn't have an IP address. It can't communicate over the network and use SIP. It needs a little help, but it still needs SIP to do that. So we solved that problem by giving him a little help. A bridge. This guy right here. This device bridges the old to the new. It's like a portal, a time machine. Notice it has an RJ45 port and an RJ11 port. This device, known as an ATA, or an analog telephone adapter, I lost my pen. It will bridge the connection between our grandpa phone and the 3CX phone system, sitting there like a translator, translating the analog signals to SIP and SIP to analog signals, so this grandpa phone can understand what the junk we're talking about. Let's set this up right now. Now, similar to our SIP phones, this will register with our 3CX system through our Raspberry Pi. And then whenever old grandpa phone we connect to it, will just work. So I'm gonna plug him in so he can power up, and I'll plug him into the network with an Ethernet cable. Now our task is to add this ATA to our 3CX phone system. To do that, we'll go to admin here in our 3CX portal. We'll go to voice and chat, and we're gonna click on add DECT/FXS. Easy for me to say. Now this model is from Grandstream. It's highly supported by a lot of things, is why I use it. And the model is HT801. Let's see. Oh, there it is right there. I'll put in the MAC address just like a phone. Click on next. It will also connect to our phone system via the Raspberry Pi. Next. And no, we're not doing faxes. We're doing audio G711 pass-through. G711 is an audio codec. Click on next. Actually, I don't want Ron Swanson to be the user. I'm gonna close that out. I'm gonna create a new user. All right, Leslie Nope it is, and we'll add the device. Now to do this, we'll also have to go into the web interface. I need to find that IP address real quick by going to my router. There it is. Fancy. I think it might be admin to log in by default. No, it's not. What is the default password for you, buddy? Oh, it's on the device. I'll set a new password, and we're in. We'll now need to download and save this configuration file. I'll save that to my downloads. I think I'll go to maintenance and then upgrade. I'll go to config file, and then I will upload my configuration. So click on upload. That file we just downloaded, I'll add that. Okay, and I think it's asking me to restart it, I think. Yes, there it goes. So pretty painless to set this up. Now while it's booting up, I'm going to grab this RJ11 cord, cable, and plug it into the RJ11 port on the Grandstream ATA. And give it a moment to reboot. I'm gonna go back to 3CX and see if it comes up. Okay, things are powered up. I'm gonna lift the handset. I got a dial tone. I'm gonna try calling Ron Swanson. What's his number again? 16510. Anything? That ringtone is cursed. Hello? How are you? Yes! My daughters are going to love this.
Yes, finally!
I call it.
No! What about my phone? No, I want a wall phone, please.
This one does this.
Oh, that's what I didn't want.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Daddy!
Huh?
Actually, I like this one.
You don't want this one?
Oh, I want that one. Okay, I call it.
5759 or 8.
758.
Really?
Hello? I would like pepperonis with little babies on top and eyeballs and boogers.
I want you when the babies cut up.
Feet first, then their hands.
You happy? You like it? So I can take your cell phone away now?
Yes.
Now here's where we are. We have our 3CX phone system, and we've got our phones configured, which is fun. They can talk to each other, and that's great for internal calling, having fun, but what about the outside world? How can I get a phone number that my grandma could use to call my kids? Or for my business? Customers could call and talk to my employees. For that, we're going back to SIP, the Session Initiation Protocol. Specifically, we're going to need something called a SIP trunk. Which sounds weird, I know. This SIP trunk is like a tunnel to the outside world, a tunnel to a telephone number provider, or essentially a phone company. We'll actually create an account with this company. And because this is a phone service, you do have to pay for that phone number. It's not crazy. But they will, yes, give you a phone number. And when people call this number, the phone company will send that call over the tunnel, your SIP trunk, to your 3CX system. And vice versa. When we make a call to an outside phone number, it will travel over our SIP trunk, go to our phone company, and they will help us make the call outbound using this phone number as our caller ID. Now thankfully, the setup on this is not crazy at all. It's actually pretty easy. And as far as the phone company, you've got a few options. For me, I love the company VoIP.ms. You don't have to go with them, there are other options. But I'm gonna demo this. And by the way, it's not sponsored at all by VoIP.ms, I just like them a lot. So we'll head on over to VoIP.ms. Click on sign up now, create an account. You can do residential or business, I'll do business for myself. Click continue, and then continue on with the account creation. They should send you an activation email, and once your account is active, click login. All right, once you're logged in, the first thing you'll notice is that, hey, your current balance is at 0. We'll need a little bit of money there in order to buy a phone number and then use that phone number. So go ahead and click on add funds right there. I'll add 15 bucks and I'll use PayPal. Actually, I'll do automatic billing. Okay, now with some funds added, up here in the menu, we'll go to DID numbers and then order DIDs. DID stands for direct inward dial. Essentially, it's just a phone number. Now for me, I'm gonna do a local number, United States, and then search for one in my state. And I'll find a number real quick. I wanna find one that just kinda speaks to me. Oh, I like this one. For the plan, I can do per minute or flat rate. I'll just do per minute. And then we'll choose our POP server, which POP means point of presence. Essentially, it's gonna be the SIP server that you're connecting to. And you want it to be closest to you. Now for me, I'm in Dallas, so I'll choose Dallas 1. And then I'll scroll down. I don't have to worry about any other settings, I don't believe. And then I'll click on order DID. Oh, my funds are not added yet. Come on, I love that number. All right, I gotta wait for funds to be added. How long did it say it might take? It says real time. It's taking forever. Okay, funds have been added. All right, time to have some funds. There's something there, I don't know. Let me try ordering my DID once more. It's only gonna cost me $1.25 initially. Confirm order. Here we go. And then a monthly fee, obviously. And we got it. If I go to DID numbers, manage DIDs, I should see it right there. So now all we have to do is set up the routing. Let's go ahead and click on that. Click on the main account settings, and then click on inbound settings, and then we'll change our device type from ATA, IP phone, soft phone to IPPBX and apply. And then right here, we'll see a little option that says for connection information, click here. Okay, let's do that. Here it's gonna give us our account details, and we're just gonna leave that there. Now we're gonna go back to 3CX, and we'll go to admin once more, go to voice and chat, and this time we're adding a trunk, a SIP trunk. So we'll click on that first option right here. We'll name it. And notice right now we have a default route of where a call will go when it arrives on this trunk. So for example, when someone calls that DID we just ordered through VoIP.ms, where's it gonna go when it arrives at our system? Right now it's gonna go to me by default. Actually, I wanna change that to Daddy. I mean, that's what I'm putting for my kids. My employees don't call me that, at least not to my face. And then also notice it'll create an outbound rule for the SIP trunk by default, meaning it gives us a way to dial outside of our phone system. Correction, it actually won't be created by default, but it will take you to a new menu after you click save to help you create that rule. You'll see that here in a second. Then we'll choose our provider. Country, US, that's where I live. Provider, we're gonna choose, let's go find it, VoIP.ms, right there. Put our main trunk number, the one I just ordered, and then our SIP username and password, and we'll get this from VoIP.ms. And then also specifically for VoIP.ms, they do have a guide for a few things you can do to make sure everything works great. Now because every carrier might just be a little bit different, I mean, it will be different. I'm not gonna go through everything here. Just know, go through the guide, make sure it all matches. The password will be the password that you set when you signed up in the portal for VoIP.ms. And then finally our server, which we set when we registered our DID, going to Dallas1.voip.ms. That's what we set. And then I think that's all we need. I'm gonna click on save, and then it auto-configured an outbound rule for us. Now this is important. Now when you dial an internal phone system, if you've never had a corporate phone system, normally you have what's called extensions. So for example, I have mine as 5755, my daughter's as 5758, so on. So I know that that's gonna be my 4-digit extension range. Now, when I wanna dial out, I need some sort of number that signifies to my phone system, hey, I'm about to dial an external number. Don't look anywhere here in our internal system. Little correction. I know you're seeing a lot of future Chuck in here to fix some stuff. It happens. But here I'm adding a prefix for an outbound rule. That's a very common thing for a lot of phone systems, but you actually don't need to do that here. For example, in the US, you could just dial the number like you normally would. It'd be a 10-digit number, and it would just work. But for me though, I prefer the prefix because that's just how I did things in the past. I'm an old phone system guy. When I was a phone system engineer, I always made that a 9. So 9 would be the digit you start to dial, and then whatever follows that will be the external number. So I'll say the prefix will be 9, and then whenever the SIP trunk sends the number out to VoIP.ms, it actually needs to take that 9 away, so we'll strip the first digit. That's all we need. We'll click on save, and that should be it. Now if you go back to our home page, go to main menu and home here in VoIP.ms, we can scroll down just a little bit until we see main account registration status. If you see registration status registered, you're good to go. Now let's test this out. Let's see if I get a call on my cell phone. Ah, it's coming in. Hello? It's working. Hi. Not sure what happened there. All right, now I want to call back in. Now that it should go to the phone behind me on the floor. That's what I told it to do. Let's call it back. Yes, it worked seamlessly. I love it so much. Now there is one thing I want to do differently though. I don't want that number going to just one phone. I don't want my phone to ring every time someone calls my house, because it could be a call for my oldest daughter, my second daughter, my third daughter, my wife. It could be anybody. So what I want to do, because this is a phone system and you know, we're extra, what I want to do is set up an IVR or a menu. So when someone calls that number, they'll be met with a nice voice saying, hey, thank you for calling the Keith house. To reach Chloe, press 1. To reach Chuck, press 2. This is actually remarkably easy to do. Let's do it right now. We're already here in the admin settings of 3CX. From here, we're gonna go to call handling, how our calls are being handled. And at the top in our menu, we'll see the option to add a digital receptionist. Remember the episode in The Office where Pam is the receptionist, but they had that sales guy coming in to sell a phone system that would replace her? And Pam kept blowing him off. Jim scared him away by acting like Michael, but this is what would have replaced Pam. It's so funny. Let's add that right now. Virtual extension number, yeah, let's say 8000, that's good. We'll assign a DID to it, which is the only DID I have set up right now for our system. Hey, it's me again. Also, you actually don't need a DID assigned to this number for it to work. The default route on the trunk will route it to Pam. Call my digital receptionist name, Pam. Type is standard. Oh, they have wake up? Okay, we'll deal with that here in a moment. We'll do standard type right now. Department, default, and then the prompt. So now here, we'll have to record our own prompt. This shouldn't be too hard. We can do that right now. Hello and thank you for calling the Keith home. To reach Chuck, press 1. To reach Chloe, press 2. To reach Addie, press 3. To repeat these options, press 4. Done. Okay, then we have our action. For 0, we'll say do nothing. For 1, we'll connect to an extension. We'll have that go to me. For 2, we'll have it go to Chloe. And for 3, we'll have that go to Addie. Notice our options though. We can connect to a ring group, another digital receptionist, a call queue, just go to voicemail. You got options. And it's so cool that we can do this and that this is free. It's stupid. By the way, you can do this without having a DID. You can simply just have this virtual number that you could call. So for example, I could just call 8000 on my internal phone and would reach this digital receptionist. In fact, we'll try that right now. So I'm gonna save this for now. Now what I wanna do is make sure my SIP trunk will actually send calls to that. I'm gonna go to my home number trunk, and the default route, I'm gonna have it go to Pam. So just to clear this up, I'm adding a default route for it to go to Pam. And it would do that if no other rules were defined for this. However, I already assigned the DID to that call handler, so it's gonna do that rule and then use this rule as a last resort. So it's pretty much redundant. I've done the same thing twice, just FYI. It's still gonna work, it's just redundant. I'm gonna try it out.
Hello, and thank you for calling the Keith home. To reach Chuck, press 1. To reach Chloe, press 2.
Let's reach Chloe.
To reach Addie, press 3.
Hello?
Hello?
That is so fun. Okay, this is arguably the coolest thing you can do with this phone system, and that's call AI. And not just any AI, your local AI. In previous videos I've posted, I set up Home Assistant, my home automation platform. I then added their Assist platform, which enables a voice assistant running on my AI server, Terry. So now I have Alexa-type devices running my own local AI voice assistant, even with a custom voice. But thanks to the wonderful people over at Home Assistant, you can actually use a VoIP system with this. I can pick up the phone and call my AI and control my house, ask it questions. This is the best thing in the whole world. To be able to use an analog phone, such old technology, to be able to call AI. I love that combination. It's so fun to me. But anyways, here's how we do this. And it's a little tricky depending on your setup. Now for me, because my 3CX system is set up on-prem, meaning it's in my network, I can just simply set up a SIP trunk that will route calls over to Home Assistant to call my AI. And that's only if you have your system on-prem. The cloud people, I still got you. You won't be able to do a SIP trunk. However, if you have an analog phone set up with the GrandStream ATA, like I just showed you, you can use this ATA to directly dial Home Assistant and talk to your AI. Let me show you, this is amazing. Disclaimer, if you're gonna do this, this is not officially supported or recommended by 3CX. When we're using that GrandStream ATA to make a SIP trunk connection to our Home Assistant setup, that's bypassing 3CX. And if not properly secured, it could open you up to hacks. So case in point, if you're doing this for a business, you probably don't want to do this setup. And if you're doing it for your house, you're probably okay. Just make sure everything's private and secure. First, the journey starts in Home Assistant. If you go to Settings, Devices and Services, and then click on Add Integration, search for one called VoIP. There it is. We'll submit that and add it. Done. If we jump in there, there should be nothing here right now. No entities, no devices. Now we need to find out what our Home Assistant IP address is. You may already know that. If you don't, let's go to Settings, System, Network, and then drop down IPv4, and you should see your IP address right there. Remember that IP address. Now here's all we have to do. Here I'm gonna log into my ATA. The account should be on 3CX. Yeah, here it is, the web console password. I'll copy it from here, from the GrandStream phone configuration. From here, we're gonna change two things. First, we'll jump into the port status. Now your GrandStream configuration may look a bit different. It actually might look more similar to this interface here, but we'll be modifying the same type of settings, the same kind of settings. And actually not port status, although it is on hook and ready to go, cool. We'll be going to port settings down here, dropping that down, and going to FXS port. And then here in this menu, we're gonna go to call settings at the top. The first thing we're gonna change is the off-hook auto dial. What this is when you lift the handset off the hook, it will auto dial whatever number you're gonna put here. Now we're not gonna put a number here. It's kind of weird. We're gonna put an IP address. Watch this. First we'll start with an asterisk, and then we'll put in 47. I don't know why it's 47. That's just what Home Assistant had put in place. And then we'll start putting in our IP address. Mine was 10, and then instead of dots, we're gonna put asterisks. So it would be 10.70.7.193. Now it's gonna be 10 asterisk 70 asterisk, can't talk, 7 asterisk 193. So whatever your IP address is, put it right after the 47, just like this. And then we'll add one more asterisk at the end of our IP address and specify 5060 or 5060, the default SIP port. So now when you lift that handset off the hook, it should dial that IP address. And because your Grandstream ATA device is on the same network as your Home Assistant, it should be able to reach it just fine. Now real quick, this right here, this config is not going to work. There's one thing we have to change, and that's the dial plan. We're gonna remove this, and we're gonna paste in this, keeping in mind I will have all the configuration below. That'll be in a big blog post so you can follow along. With this dial plan in place, and this off-hook auto dial in place, it should work. Now, you're probably thinking, Chuck, what if I want to use this phone to be able to call people and the AI? Right now, it's just going to dial AI every single time. I hear you. Right here, if you want that option, we have an off-hook auto dial delay to where it'll wait a moment before auto dialing the AI. So we'll give it like 2 seconds. So that way you have a chance to dial another number before it auto dials AI. So that's it. We're going to scroll down, click on Save and Apply. One more thing with the ATA. We're going to go over to Audio Settings and scroll down a little bit until we see VO Coder Settings. For choice 1, we'll want to change it to Opus. Opus is what Home Assistant is expecting for a codec. Once you have that selected, just click on Save and Apply. Now that should be it, but I do need to change the codecs that we can use. Similar to the ATA, I'll need to use the Opus codec. So I'm gonna go to Advanced and then Codecs. Make sure Opus is like priority 1 and save. And now what I wanna do first is try calling this phone here to make sure everything's still working, right? So off hook. Perfect, that works. Now I'm gonna let it go for 2 seconds.
This is your smart home speaking. Your phone is connected, but you must configure it within Home Assistant.
Okay, so it reached Home Assistant. That was Home Assistant talking. Now what? We're gonna go back to Home Assistant. Go into Settings, go to Devices and Services, and get back into the VoIP or Voice over IP section. Notice we have 1 device and 5 entities now. What? Let's jump into that device. Click on 1 device. It's now viewing your Grandstream ATA as a device, a Wyoming satellite, that's what they call it. And then down here, we're gonna configure this to use a certain voice assistant that we have set up in the Assist platform. I'm going to enable this and have it use Terry. So now let's test it out. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, just keeping the studio humming along. How about you? Need anything else?
Can you tell me what year The Matrix came out?
The Matrix was released in 1999.
Thank you so much. Can you tell me what actor played the main character?
Neil, the main guy was played by John Reeves.
How amazing is that? You can call AI with your phone system. I have so many ideas. So here we are. Right now with your analog phone and your ATA, you can call your AI and you can also interface with the 3CX phone system. It's beautiful. Now real quick, because I have an on-prem 3CX system, I'm gonna show you how I set up my trunk. So here in 3CX, I'm gonna go to Voice and Chat and click on Add a Trunk, and I'll name this Home Assistant. Now again, if you are using the free version in the cloud, you will not be able to do this. I'm gonna change my provider to generic SIP trunk. And this is the option you will not have. And then it's asking for authentication. I'm just gonna put in nothing because it doesn't need to authorize. I know, it's me again. Just so you know, the reason this trunk doesn't require authentication is because it's an IP-based trunk. And the system on the other end is programmed just to receive any request it gets. No authentication required. And then under registrar server, I'll add in the IP address of my Home Assistant server. That should be all I need. I'll allow it to create an outbound rule. Click on Save. And here it's doing the outbound rule. I'll say the prefix will be *89. We'll strip the first 3 digits, and that should be it. Save. Now, let's try it out. All right, I'm not getting audio. Okay, I updated the firmware and that didn't work, but I did get it working and I was just being dumb. Here's what I missed. On the trunk itself, if I go into options, they have codec priority. I had to go in here and click on add and add the Opus codec, which I now have as priority. So now, when I call this now, hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. How can I assist you today at NetworkChuck Studios?
Can you tell me the origin of Christmas trees? And don't make it too long. Tell me like in 10 seconds.
Your 16th century Christian tradition is credited with popularizing the modern Christmas tree. Evergreen fir trees were seen as a symbol of life during winter. The evergreen bird was also associated with Jesus Christ, the tree of life.
How cool is that? Now, there is one problem, specifically with the SIP trunk option I'm doing here in 3CX. I'm talking to the guy at Home Assistant about this. I gotta share some logs with them. When I call back, I get nothing. So I have to actually go in here and restart the integration, reload it. And it works now, but I have to do that every time. So what I did as just kind of a band-aid was create an automation that'll detect when my phone calls go idle. It'll reload it automatically, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm not gonna detail that here, but I will have it in my blog post if you wanna check that out. If you are running a local version of 3CX and you're making a SIP trunk connection. Okay, here's the state of things. I've had my phone system set up in my house and my business for about 2 weeks, and it's amazing. Before I could not get a hold of my kids, now I can do it actually right now. Let's see. I've got one number I call. This one right here, my house, 8001. It rings all the users, all the phones in my house to get a hold of people. Let's try it out. Ringing every phone right now.
Hello?
Hey, who is this?
I don't know.
Hey, Rosie.
Hi, Daddy.
How you doing?
Hello, Daddy. Bye, Daddy.
Bye. I love being able to call my kids right from my office. And then, that's it's my second youngest. Is that how you say it? She doesn't have a phone, but now she kind of does. Also, my team is kind of bad at communication. My manager's always trying to get a hold of the editors and they're never available, so she just calls them up now. That's pretty cool. And with this phone system, you can get as nerdy as you want to get. It's so crazy. For example, they had this 3CX call flow designer, which reminds me of something I used to use back in the day as a phone system engineer. You can do so much. So like right now, this script here, I have it configured to be a menu that will send a webhook to Home Assistant to simply turn off the light behind me. Let's try it out. Actually, I forgot the number. Oh, it's 8009. Watch the light. Just pressing 1 turns it off. I'll call it back. Turns back on. So imagine having an IVR. Like my wife is always forgetting the commands to tell Terry, our voice assistant, to turn lights on and off in our house. She gets so frustrated. No matter how many times I tell her. So having a number she can call and go through a menu, press 1 to turn on the bedroom lights, press 2 to turn the TV off. Like just those things, that's so cool. I love the old and the new. And being able to talk to my voice assistant is just sick. Hey Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for listening. Can I help you with anything else? Would you like to control any of the devices in your home?
Actually, can you just tell me the temperature of the server room right now?
And need to run the high-fit state tool to get the current state of the server room's temperature. Let me try that. In the server room, it is currently 73.2 degrees F.
Like, that's so cool. I can call and talk to a voice assistant and ask it what the temperature of my server room is. I can do anything I want. I feel all powerful. That's the video. I'll catch you guys next time.